So beauty pageants have taken a new direction in recent years. We have seen unprecedented developments within the pageant world. People who we never imagined entering a beauty pageant are not only participating, they are winning. So is it a change for the better? Is it progressive? Is it a natural evolution of the pageant industry? Are our standards rapidly declining? Should we change our idea of what we consider beautiful? Should we change our idea of what we consider healthy? Should we change our idea of what we consider to be a woman? Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to talk about the Miss Maryland beauty pageant in which a trans-identified male won. Of course, you had people calling this groundbreaking, calling this a win for LGBTQ people, saying that this is very progressive, this is inclusive, that why shouldn't a man who identifies as a woman enter into a beauty pageant? And of course you get the people who say the person who won is a woman, so what difference does it make? And they should not be excluded from beauty pageants, and they even meet the standards, apparently. So the new Miss Maryland is transgender, and this person looks a certain way. Some people may look at the person and not even realize that this person is male, blended in with the other women somewhat, wearing a lovely sparkly dress, long flowy hair, and apparently all of that makes the person a woman. So every time these competitions take place and, transgender person wins, we see the women on the sidelines clapping for their own replacement. It's happened time and time again in sports and competitions of various kinds. And of course, people ask why? Why are you cheering on your own demise? Why are you standing there smiling and encouraging this? Do you want more male contestants entering into your competition? Do you want this to be the face of women's beauty in Maryland? But it turns out all is not what it seems. We're told that women are okay with this. We're told that it's only the bigots who object, that everyone else thinks this is a great development, thinks that the world is going in a great direction when it comes to this sort of thing. But no, it turns out that isn't strictly true. So some of the female contestants, they are now speaking out and letting us know that many of them are not happy. So let's see Miss Maryland being crowned.
I hope to show our little immigrant girls or little, girls and boys in the LGBTQIA plus community that the impossible is always possible and that it's never too late.
Happy Pride!
So this person wants to be a role model to young girls, young immigrant girls. So some might say that's lovely. This is representation. Not only is this person transgender, this person is also of an immigrant background. As long as there's a inspirational story behind it and the person is positive and all of those things, people don't care. People don't care that males are entering into women's competitions and essentially taking a woman's place. So is this where we want things to go? Do we want our role models for our children being people who are not quite who they seem to be? The male winner goes by the name Bailey Ann Kennedy and identifies as a transgender woman. So Bailey Ann Kennedy was crowned the new Miss Maryland USA in June, becoming not only the first transgender woman to win the title, but also the first Asian American to achieve the coveted honor. I was shocked, one contestant told the Daily Signal as she described how she found out that she was competing against a man. This contestant, who asked to remain anonymous to protect her privacy, will be identified as contestant A. I had mixed feelings. I started to think that the winner might be predetermined. So of course, it's the beginning of Pride Month. Some people might, put two and two together and come up with the idea that perhaps there was an incentive to crown this particular person as Miss Maryland. And let me tell you something. The Canadian powerlifters, the female powerlifters who had to compete against a male athlete. The male athlete has broken various records, women's records, and, has won various competitions by a huge margin. I was told that some of the women didn't even know that the person was male. They were unaware that they were competing against a man. Of course, they weren't told. And when they saw this person, they just assumed that it was a woman who looked in, a certain way. It's not unheard of. Probably didn't have much interaction with the person one-on-one, so didn't know that they were competing against a male athlete. They had no idea. So it does happen. There are situations where women find out that they were competing against a man after the fact. And of course, many of them aren't even told. They're not even given that courtesy. A transgender woman gets crowned during first day of Transgender Pride Month? She asked. It did not seem like a coincidence, especially when the owner of the pageant is a transgender woman herself. That says it all. Come on now. I was feeling like neither myself nor my fellow contestants had a fair opportunity from the beginning. And this is another thing. We're going to be seeing more and more of this, especially if people who identify as trans are in our schools, are involved in our sporting bodies, are in beauty pageants, are organising these events. They're going to have a vested interest in ensuring that people within their community are represented. They have a vested interest in making sure that that happens. Kennedy will now go on to compete for the title of Miss USA in Los Angeles in August. The 31-year-old beauty pageant contestant, who would reportedly be the oldest Miss USA winner in pageant history, is married to Marine Corps officer Casey Guthrie. Oh, really? I didn't see that coming, I'm not going to lie. Wow, so this person is married to a man? A Marine Corps officer? I mean, that's, typically people regard that as pretty masculine, I must say. So, that's interesting. So Kennedy says, I'm a military wife. Immediately after winning the Miss Maryland contest, Kennedy marched in the Capitol Pride Parade in Washington, D.C.
What was that moment like?
Oh my God, it's a whirlwind because I knew it was bigger than me, Corey. I knew that this is going to mean a lot for all the LGBT kids out there who might have felt different and might have feel like they don't belong in a box like me growing up. So I hope that my win will be a delicious invitation for them to be themselves.
I imagine going into a competition like this, competing with a lot of people who are very different from you, has to be scary. There have to be a lot of fears involved into a process like that. How did you overcome it and ultimately win the title?
Actually, it's not, Corey. It's actually very much about the sisterhood.
So the requirements for Miss Maryland USA were changed. They changed up the requirements. So they removed multiple requirements for contest, and now allows women who are over the age of 28 and women who are married to compete.
So therefore, I felt very prepared going into it. I felt confident in my own skin at 31, competing, which is past the old age limit, which is 28. As you know, Miss Universe organization lift the age restriction now. So every woman of all ages can compete.
And what do you hope that this title will do for other LGBTQ plus?
I just hope that it will open up some doors and open up some hearts.
People are going to say this is a win for beauty pageants. They're allowing women who are older, obviously not old, but who are older, and women who are married. The Daily Signal reviewed a copy of the 2024 Miss Maryland USA contestant agreement, which specifically asks contestants to verify that they are biologically female. Okay, so if the contestant is transgender, if the contestant is male, they had to provide proof that they are legally recognized as a woman by the government, and also evidence of transitioning, via hormones and surgery and that kind of thing. So the person has to sign this agreement. I attest that I am a female, recognized legally and medically as such in the United States. If your sex designated at birth was not female, you must be able to provide legal and governmental recognition of your assigned sex as female by the US federal government or US state of residence, which may include if requested by, any certification that you have fully completed sex reassignment required by your state and or provided by a physician. So it's the idea that if the person has transitioned, then they are regarded as a woman. And this former contestant quite rightly has said that there needs to be transparency when it comes to women-led spaces, especially those that involve minor teen contestants. Now, this person asked to remain anonymous. Unless things have changed from when I competed, contestants share changing rooms and bedrooms. Parents and all contestants have the right to know of biological male individuals occupying their female children's private spaces, including shared changing rooms and hotel rooms. Further, organizations must not impose political agendas that undermine the hard work, finances, and dedication of contestants. And the fact is, it's not just about Bailey. It's what these policies open the door to. So today it's Bailey, who the contestants, some of whom were unaware, was male. But tomorrow it could be somebody who is a straight up predator, who wants to be in the women's locker room, who wants to be surrounded by beauty queens. It could be somebody who is exercising their fetish, who has autogynephilia, who's lived as a woman for years. So yeah, I agree. There needs to be transparency, especially when it's beauty pageants that involve children, teenagers, young people. So there were multiple female contestants who told the Daily Signal that they found out that Kennedy was male after the competition. This is likely due to the fact that Kennedy does, very convincingly, look like a female beauty queen. Photographs of the male contestant show that Kennedy is toned, leggy and slim, with long black hair and accentuated cleavage. Several of the women who spoke to the Daily Signal indicated that Kennedy looks more masculine in person, so they're saying that the photos of Kennedy online look more feminine. I first realised I competed with a biological man a few days after the competition, says contestant Elizabeth McCarthy. And shout out to Elizabeth for actually not doing this anonymously. Not to take away from the other contestants, always speak out. Even if it's anonymous, please speak out. And I commend anybody who speaks out, even if it's anonymous. But for Elizabeth to give her name, I have to commend her in particular because, people are so mean online these days that women don't know what sort of backlash they're going to receive just for speaking out. I saw it on the Miss Universe Maryland USA Instagram post. At first, I was shocked. I felt sick to my stomach and was so upset for the other women in the top 5. I was disgusted and disappointed that the pageant coordinators allowed women to undress in front of a man without any disclosure. I just don't understand what happened to embracing your true self, the self that God made perfectly in His image. I don't understand what happened to loving ourselves for who we are, not how we want to be. I feel absolutely terrible that society pushes us to change who we are. It's not fair, kind or loving. A third contestant, who asked to remain anonymous to protect her privacy and will be identified as contestant B, said that she felt betrayed by the way the contest was handled. I felt lied to. I would have liked to know ahead of time, as I was subject to change, utilise the bathroom, and be in the same space as a biological man. It surely seems like the organisation and Bailey was trying to hide this fact until it was convenient to them. And this is the thing, it's the deception. There is no justification for deceiving the other contestants. Why on earth are you so vocal about this person being transgender now? Going to Pride, going on Good Morning America as the first transgender person to win Miss Maryland and gaining a lot of publicity because of it. You're doing that now, after these contestants have gone through the whole competition. Why were you not proud and vocal about this person being transgender before the competition? Why was that not publicised? A transgender person is entering into Miss Maryland. Let's pay close attention to how this turns out. Why was that not the headline? It's the deception, and it does feel like a violation. The contestants should have been told. If you're all proud about it, why not disclose it from the very beginning. That gives them the option of competing or not. They have the right to decide if they want to compete in a competition with a male. They have that right. And to me, that comes across as very sneaky. Now you want the publicity about having a trans person, but you didn't want the publicity before the competition was concluded. This person is openly trans now, but upon entering the competition initially, silence. To me, that is willfully being deceptive. This person could enter a transgender competition. There are transgender beauty pageants, but it's because they want to be affirmed as female, even though that's something that they can never be. Rather than allowing people to take the place of women, let them compete in their own competitions. Or if it's an open competition for males who identify as women and females who don't mind competing against these people, that's fine. But you led these contestants to believe that they were entering a women's competition and they were going to be in the locker room with women, they were going to be competing against women. Nothing about them competing against males until you wanted to benefit from the publicity. That's a foul move by the organisers. If one of the organisers is transgender themselves, why weren't they proud to say that a transgender person was entering into the competition? Why weren't they proud to say that? And surprise, surprise, a transgender person wins, and now you want to shout it from the rooftops and have this person doing TV appearances. A third Miss Maryland contestant, who will be identified as Contestant C, stressed that she is not against the LGBTQ community and believes that individuals who identify as LGBTQ have rights just like every individual. However, I do believe the competition was rigged. There isn't a doubt in my mind that it was not. For example, I think in previous years, the pageant secured different judges. I think they were changed. In addition, the staff were not respectful nor pleasant. I completely understand that this is a pageant and that it is fast-paced. But there is certain respect that individuals should provide, especially since we are all grown women who can take direction and listen. I believe it is disheartening to have so many women pay for coaches, hair and makeup, and find sponsors when they already knew who they were going to select, Contestant C added. Contestant B also pointed out that Kennedy is a self-described stay-at-home wife with no kids. Given that the Miss Maryland USA contest awards women not only for beauty, but for hard work and professional success, Contestant B found it odd that Kennedy would win without a job or a family. I met a lot of women who were moguls in business, philanthropy, and more, but Bailey ended up winning without a job or being in school. The contestant stressed. How does that showcase or inspire women, young women, that they can do anything? Or being trans is an achievement within itself. Bailey is inspiring young immigrant girls simply for being trans and winning the beauty contest. And the contestants agreed that it was because the person is trans. It was Pride Week when she won. So I would assume it was to show that the pageant community does not discriminate. See, this contestant is using she pronouns. These contestants are not transphobic. They're not against somebody living how they want to live. But again, Kennedy could have entered into a transgender beauty pageant. But Kennedy chose to enter into a beauty pageant for females. I feel Kennedy won this competition because it was set up. What are the odds that a trans-identifying individual wins the Miss Maryland USA title on the first day of Pride Month? I feel that men are taking over everything that women worked so hard for. I believe Kennedy won this title solely based on her status of being transgender. So it sounds like multiple contestants believe it's because Kennedy is trans and it was the first day of Pride Month. This organisation wanted to check all of its diversity in different boxes. So instead of selecting the most qualified, they selected what would make them stand out to the new organisation owner, who is also transgender. She added, arguing, "This space is less about women supporting women and more about how many boxes we can check." All of the female contestants who spoke to the Daily Signal said that they wished Miss Maryland USA would have been truthful in acknowledging why they selected Kennedy as the winner. And they argued that Miss Maryland USA owes the 2024 contestants a public apology. Absolutely. It was very deceptive, and they knew exactly what they were doing. So the first runner-up, who had her win taken from her by a male contestant, is supportive of Kennedy. On Instagram, Tara Johns supported Kennedy publicly, saying that she's proud to have competed against somebody who made history. You're going to Miss USA, and I can't wait to cheer you on. This is not rejection, it's redirection. God always has a plan, and I haven't lost sight of that. I trust him, and I know that my best days lie ahead of me. As my best friend so eloquently reminded me before competition weekend, the true glory is in the process of becoming. Here's to the beautiful unknown and the stepping stones of elevation. The work doesn't stop here. So look, obviously, the first runner-up is disappointed because she is missing out on going to Miss USA. And these contestants, they put in a lot of money and time and effort into competing in these pageants. And there is a lot at stake. There is prize money, and you are literally given a role for the entire year. And that is to be an ambassador to your community, an ambassador to your state. So it's a big deal to these contestants. So obviously she is disappointed. If this was strictly a women's competition where you had to be female to enter the competition, and if Kennedy had entered a transgender beauty pageant, this woman would have been crowned the winner, and she would have reached her goal. So she's literally had her goal of winning Miss Maryland and going to Miss USA taken from her by a male contestant who many argue should never have been there in the first place. Not in that competition. And on top of that, you're wondering whether the whole thing was rigged. So she might want to seem supportive and all of that and be gracious, but she should be asking the questions. Why have I been denied winning Miss Maryland by a male contestant who shouldn't be entering into a women's pageant? So given that many of the contestants poured huge sums of money into their outfits, makeup and hair, the women would like to see some kind of monetary compensation as well as an apology. It's expensive, said one woman, and they had already picked a winner. I hope that they give all of the women their money back. Pageant life is big money, and I cannot imagine how much money they obtained from us. I believe that Miss Maryland pageant should have held a separate pageant for transgender individuals where they can compete and go on to become Miss USA if they would like to do so. And yeah, if it really is just about inclusion, why not just have a transgender pageant under this umbrella of pageants? Why are they pushing for transgender contestants to be in the women's category? Because the women are basically up against not only other females, they now have to be worried about going up against male contestants just because they can present themselves as females. It's not right, it really isn't. So again, I commend these contestants for speaking up, and it does go to show that it's not all it seems, that women are not happy about this. Women want to be rewarded for their hard work. They don't want to see people who aren't even female winning just because they identify as trans, just because they bring publicity. Just like in the case of the NCAA swimming, Leah Thomas got to hold the trophy, despite tying with Riley Gaines, because Leah brought more publicity, being trans. There's a lot of politics being brought into these competitions, and it's overtaking what's fair and what's right. Males should not win female beauty contests. Don't they have male model contests? 5 years ago, neither the Babylon Bee or any other satire site could have come up with stories as ridiculous as this one, or many others that we regularly see today. The mixture of 1984 idiocracy and the Twilight Zone we live in today and has gone completely off the rails. I've seen several competitions lately where male contestants won a female competition, even though the male contestants did not perform as well as the females did. The left, inspired by the Democrats in the last election, is comfortable with cheating wins. This won't stop until women stop participating. That's true, but they have to know that there's a transgender individual in their competition for them to make the decision not to participate. So now what we're seeing is the deception. And that's very concerning. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.